Started. So, welcome back to another lesson in the Ultimate CCNA Prep course, where we are prepping you to take the CCNA exam. And that's obviously to increase your income. And you can increase it in 9 to 5, right? Maybe something in your job. Hold on. My internet's lagging. Oh, you can increase your income in a 9 to 5. Maybe at your current job, you want to go to the IT department, or just want to find a good paying job in that type of field. Or you can sell your skills. Places like Upwork, Fiverr, or just creating yourself a business. This is the place to up your tech skills and find an avenue that's for you so you can increase your income. Now, we did start section 6, automation and programmability, and we are actually in 6.3 and 6.4. Just like the previous lesson, it's not going to be too long because we want to focus on our labbing, right? And in this lesson, we're going to lab. We're actually going to get our developer tools together. So we're going to download everything, get everything set up, so we can start going in and using our developer tools for automation and programming and such. So again, we're going to just go over briefly 6.3 and 6.4. We kind of touched over it a little bit previous lesson, but we'll go a little more into detail with the software-defined networks and such. And then we'll start downloading our developer tools. Okay, let's get into it. All right, let me get this off my screen because it's always popping up. And we move it here. Okay, so we left off with SDN, right? We talked about SDN. We were going in a little bit about the southbound interface, northbound interface, but let's actually go into SDA, right? SDN, SDA, excuse me, they're used synonymously. SDA is software defined access, right? So SDN, it's the same thing, software-defined networking, but A is more of the access, right? That's the difference. And when you say access is users, as hosts, and devices having access into our network via software, our software-defined network, right? So again, they're used pretty loosely as the same thing. However, SDN is basically just saying that it's a controller-based network, right? It is a software-defined network that is based off of a controller, right? And that kind of describes like the network uses this controller to implement its changes in automation, right? SDA is the same thing, but more on an access layer, which again, as we know from access layer, is where our end devices and hosts come into our in our network. And it's all software defined, right? So I do want to point that out. SDA, SDN, you'll see those terms used the same way, okay? So what we're going to do is within the SDN umbrella, we'll talk about SDA and go a little bit deeper into it, right? SDA is just it's the newer land, right? The newer local area network architecture, because it's all about software defined networking, right? It's not our traditional networking, which is just regular physical switches and routers, maybe a little virtualization here, but we're going to go into every router, every networking device, switch, router, and basically, configure it or control it in some sense. So instead of doing that the traditional way, technology decided, I'm not even gonna say Cisco, decided to add software so we can use our time more manageably, and we can do things much quicker and at a less error pace because we have a computer doing it, right? Now, we talked a little bit again we left off with the SDN, and we have our controller. Now, our controller is our DNA Center controller, right? DNA stands for Digital Network Architecture. Now, if you go all the way back, I believe it was section 1, we probably covered a little bit of the DNA Center controller, because we talked about controllers in a network. And we brushed over a little bit with the DNA Center. And this is where we're actually going to talk a little bit more about it, which is the center focus of an SDA. right, of the software-defined access, which is our software-defined network. All right, and this controller sits in the middle. In the middle of this controller, we have our southbound interface, and then up here, it's not pictured, but we'll have our northbound interface, right? Most of the times you'll see northbound API, you'll see southbound API, you may see something like that. Now we know that APIs are interfaces that talk from one software to the next, right? That's how two softwares can talk to each other, is through an API, right? This type of interface. So you may see it's a southbound interface, southbound API, northbound interface, northbound API. I just want you guys to really understand that the terms is kind of synonymous to each other. So you may see just SBI, or you may see as a southbound API. They're still the same thing. I don't want you to get too confused on the semantics of the words, right? SDA is what you're going to hear a lot. SDN is more like a old school term, right? It's like a legacy term. In today's network, when we are putting software into our network and using it for automation and such, we're always going to reference SDA over SDN, right? So yes, so at the center of this SDA, we have our DNA, right? This is our architecture that we're going to use, which has our southbound interface and our northbound interface, okay? Now our southbound interface has these three components: the fabric, overlay, and underlay, which we'll get into. And our northbound interface is basically us. We are the ones that's going to control this controller through some type of script, right? Some type of like maybe Python or something, or maybe even a GUI, right? And we know the GUI is like a website we will go to, graphic user interface, or an application we would log into, and we would control our controller, because our controller has the intelligence. It's going to do what it's going to do, but someone has to control it, right? The computer's only going to do what you tell it to do. So who's going to be the one to tell the computer what to do, to tell the other computers what to do, right? That's where we come in at, and that's where the northbound interface is. That's what it's used for, right? So let's actually go in a little deeper about southbound interfaces and a little bit about northbound interfaces. Okay, from this slide, I want you guys to understand that SDN is essentially SDA. They mean the same thing. It's a software-defined network, a software-defined access. Access obviously is specific to the access layer, right? Because this is where our end device is going to connect to, have access to our network. So we're going to more be specific when we're talking about SDA, is talking about access. However, we're always going to use SDA as the acronym when we're talking about software in our network. SDN is more like when you're getting in the field, it's more of a test acronym, right? SDN is more of something like, you want to be politically correct or proper, but we're always going to say SDA. In the centerfold of this SDA, of this SDN, something that in order for it to work properly, we have our DNA Center controller, right? Controller. And that controller has southbound and northbound interfaces, also known as southbound APIs, northbound APIs. Okay? Make sure you taking notes on that. That's important for you to understand. Okay? So let's actually go in on these interfaces. So, like I said, the southbound interface, right? Southbound interface has three methods, or three parts to it: overlay, underlay, and fabric, right? You will hear these terms go along with the southbound, what happens on the southbound interface. And again, this is the Cisco DNA Center. This is our controller, right? And our southbound and our northbound. So our southbound, let's talk about the overlay, right? Let's just talk real quick about the underlay, because the underlay is pretty simple. Underlay is just the physical part of the SDA, right? It is the actual switches, the routers, the cables, is all the physical networking equipment. Okay, this is what resides in this underlay. So you can say physical, right? It's all about the physical. Again, we have our switches, layer 3, layer 2, and our routing, right? The goal of this underlay is to, sorry, you guys. The goal of this underlay is to discover each other. So all these devices are going to discover each other and say, do you are you a part of this SDA network, right? Are you a part of this software defined network? Um, um, Basically that's really it. There is a little bit more detail of it, but as far as like the exam is concerned, as far as your knowledge for this is concerned, you really just need to understand that these devices in this underlay, the focus of it is to say, do you belong in the software defined network or not? Are you part of it? You switch, you router, are you participating in this type of network, right? And if it is part of this network, it's going to create this type of tunnel to talk to the overlay. Okay, so speaking of tunnel, the overlay has a I believe it's VXLAN, VXLAN, right? Not to get be confused with virtual LAN, but a VXLAN is a virtual extensible LAN. Okay, that's what it stands for. That's what the X stands for. So let's come down here. So we got virtual extensible LAN, right? We all know what LAN is, local area network. Okay, so it's a tunnel, right? And this would be considered. Let me come here. This would be considered the VXLAN, right? VXLAN. This tunnel right here. And basically what this tunnel right here is it's saying that, okay, you want to send information. Let's just say this is our end devices, right? You want to send information through this network that we're using software with. We're going to send it through this tunnel, which kind of encapsulates it and obviously tells the frame to say, hey, we're starting to use some type of software. This is not normally what's going on. We're using something a little bit extra. Make sure you know how to route this properly, right? So in turn, it's going to be able to translate data in a software defined way. Okay, that's what the overlay is there for, right? It creates this VX LAN, right? And this VX LAN is basically putting on a tag. It's like encapsulating it and decapsulating. So it's putting on the tag, saying, hey, this is some software stuff, send it over, make sure it goes here. And then the next device is going to take that tag off and say, okay, I know where to send this now. Okay, we kind of talked a little bit about the VPNs and the GREs, and that's essentially the same process. It's going through this type of tunneling, and this tunneling encapsulates the data and puts on its own special type of frame. So when the next device gets it, the next device knows how to properly route this type of data. Okay. So it's just providing some data transfer between these different types of fabrics. So going into fabric is the overlay and the underlay put together. That's all the fabric is. Combination of both physical underlay, right, and the logical view of the overlay. That's all the fabric is, right? It's just a complete solution of this virtual and physical network. Okay, so let me erase that a little bit. So this is considered our fabric, right? That whole thing is the fabric, which contains our overlay, our underlay. Our overlay is our logical sense, right? Because it's going to create this virtual extensible LAN tunnel, right? Let me just say tunnel that that provides this type of special data transfer between these fabrics, right? And the fabric is within the fabric is our underlay and our overlay, right? different fabrics, what we have different lands, because we're talking about one land. We know what a land is, right? It's local. So obviously we're going to have more than one land in our environment. We may, depending on how many sites we have, how many, sites where we're managing, we can have up to like 30, 40, 50 lands, which in turns have 30, 40, 50 VX lands, right? These tunnels. So I want to talk to someone else in the company that may be in a different state, which is obviously in a different land, right? So basically what's going to happen is these VX lands are going to be able to route traffic between our fabrics, between our different lands, our virtual lands, our software defined lands. Okay. So when we have our controller, right, that is in our network, it's the centerfold of our software, because we want to add software into our network. So we're going to obviously have a controller, which we would use. There's other ones, but we will essentially use the Cisco DNA Center. The Cisco DNA Center has our southbound interface that contains our overlay, underlay, and fabric. Overlay is just the logical part of how we're going to transfer this data that deals with software. Our underlay is just the physical part. The underlay is just saying, hey, are you participating in software? Are you participating in software? Okay, cool. Because they want to create this topology. They want to know who each other is. And then our fabric is just saying that the overlay and the underlay is together, right? Now, again, we're breaking this down very small, but in the midst of things, we just have our big fabric, right? That contains our overlay and underlay. Okay, that's the southbound interface. Excuse me. Then we have our northbound interface. Northbound interface, as you can see right here, all it is us as the administrators managing or controlling this DNA center, right? Yes, we have our software, we have our DNA center that's going to go ahead and control our network because it's automated. We don't have to do anything. All we have to do is tell the DNA center what to do, and it's going to take it from there. It's going to start managing and controlling from there. So how do we get into that? Well, we get into that by the northbound interface, right? You got to look at the perspective of it. If we have our central point, our controller, and the controller has a north and a south, where will we end up? Where will we access that controller? We would access it from the north interfaces, not the south interfaces, right? So we can access this DNA center by different things, right? We can access it by a GUI, right? We know what a GUI is. Our scripts, right? We can use different types of scripts. And usually a developer, they have developers here. Yes, a developer will use a script, but there's like maybe one or two people that will be in the networking department that actually know about software development, right? Obviously, with software coming into our network, we definitely need someone in the networking department to know software. So we'll have that one token guy or girl who's going to be like, oh, okay, I know both networking and software development on a small scale, maybe a bigger scale. And they're going to make sure that we are implementing our software correctly in our network. And that is why it is important for you guys, when you're going out into the world as newbies, you know both, you know networking and software, because software is in almost 90% of every single company in the world. So if you can come in and say, well, yeah, I know computer networking, and I also know software development, right? I also know how to incorporate networking and software together so we can make our jobs easier. And that sounds like someone that's going to get hired much quicker than the person who has 10, 15 years just in networking. Like, who cares? This person here knows how to innovate us, knows how to advance us. As far as this person here is with the 15 years experience, all they know is the same old same. Technology changes every single day. What you do today is going to be way something that you do tomorrow. It's just that advanced. It's always advancing, right? So yes, you will be in a company to where they probably haven't updated their technology within the past 2 years, right? However, they're going to have to update it sooner. Sometimes they just wait it out longer. Sometimes you'll see companies that still have some technology that was back in 2008. And it's like, whoa. But if you can be the one to come in and say, well, I see you're in this 2008 environment, let me upgrade you to something more like 2018, right? 2019 type of technology. It doesn't have to be all the way to 2021, what we have now, but something more updated to help the process easier. And then you're providing training on that. Like, you're just an overall asset to the company, and that's what I'm trying to train you guys to be, so you can go in there and really make those big bucks by something that is easy to you but hard to them. Okay, that's why we have these the Cisco book, and I tell you which chapters to read and these little labs to do, because as they become something that you're kind of used to, right? We're not going to say that you are a network engineer, right? But with you having this information, getting exposed to it and doing it every day, you have more experience than the regular, right? You'll have more experience than you have more knowledge than the person who's been in this for 20 plus years. I'm going to tell you the truth. I've been in 2 contracts, almost 3, like the 2.5 kind of. And there are people in the industry who have been there 20 plus years, and they didn't even know the things that I knew. And I've only been in this field for a little over a year. Right. So it blows my mind to know that you've been in this position for 20 plus years, and I come in as a newbie and I have more knowledge than you.
Question.
Yes.
How do you think something like that can happen?
What do you mean?
Meaning that if you've been in the industry for so long, you should know it all, you should have seen it all, and your experience outweighs new knowledge, don't you? Because if you're doing it every day.
Not at all. Experience do not outweigh new knowledge, not whatsoever. Experience just says that you've been doing this for a long time. New knowledge says that I now know what is standard now. So what we did last year. What about what's happening tomorrow? Right?
Okay.
So what that we drive cars, what about the self-driving cars?
Mm-hmm.
You have all this experience in working in phones, but somebody come in and they're like, oh, well, I now know how to make the tablet to where you can make phone calls and be on a computer. That Nokia person, just because they've been doing it for 20 years, is not going to be better than the Galaxy 8 or the iPhone 12, right?
Right. Okay.
So that's where that money is coming from. The money is coming from the new eyes, the new knowledge, the knowledge that's like, okay, help us advance. A lot of times you're going to get complacent. You're going to be like, okay, well, I do this all day. I can configure all day, but who cares? Because someone else is going to come in and be like, well, right? Just like how automation is happening. So what that you have good customer service and you're going to make sure that the customer is right. It's only going to cost them pennies on a dollar to replace you with an automation, with an IVR, with a computer to say, hey, how can I help you? Right. So it's very important to always stay on top of your knowledge. That's why the tech field, the IT field, is so many different departments in it, and you don't want to get overwhelmed with everything. You want to know exactly like what is your realm. If your realm is computer networking, then you're going to touch these little topics. Computer networking, you're going to know a little bit of everything, right? But you're not supposed to know deep dive into everything. But maybe you say, okay, well, I want to be a software developer. Okay, cool. So now you know everything is software development, but there's pockets in that. Are you developing websites, applications? Are you developing something like an AI for machine learning? What are you doing in that software development? And then, you got security. There's different parts of security. Like it's so many different pockets that when you get into the field, and that's why I started off with this CCNA, because it's a wide range of everything. So no matter what you want to do, this is something to get your eyes open and say, okay, well, maybe I did want to be in cybersecurity, but I'm leaning more towards software development. Maybe I did want to be a coder, but maybe I actually do want to be in data networking, right? Or maybe you want to go over to voice networking. Like, again, it's so many avenues, right? So I digress. make sure that you guys definitely understand southbound APIs, northbound APIs, aka northbound interfaces, southbound interfaces. The biggest thing is with southbound, they have these 3 extra little things going on with them. But if you understand that underlay is just the physical part trying to sync up with each other. The overlay is like a logical part to say, okay, I'm going to route traffic in a different way because we are now using software, right? And the fabric is just what it all entails, right? And it entails the overlay and the underlay, right? Pretty simple. Definitely it's in chapter 17, yes? Yes, 17, because 16 we read last lesson. So chapter 17, it tells you a little more detail into this stuff. What I suggest is definitely go in and just take your notes on what you're not, again, with the mini quiz, what you're having trouble understanding. Definitely take notes on that and then create flashcards on these different acronyms and terms so you can know exactly how to use them. And when they pop up in your reading or when someone's talking about it, or even in an interview, you can at least speak to it. You know, you don't have to be a genius in it, but you can speak to it. Oh, yes, I know about Cisco DNA Center. You know, we come in through the northbound interface. I use a GUI myself. Sometimes I can come in with a script doing JavaScript or Python. And you can talk about, oh, well, yeah, the Cisco DNA Center. I know that the southbound interface has the overlay and the underlay, which is going to talk with each other in the fabric, right? It's going to be combined in the fabric, right? So just speaking like that real quick, just going over it and then moving along will help you win yourself the type of pay you want, right? Let's go in a little bit. Let's just go in on the whole of it, right? Of it in the whole. So we have our control plane, right? SDN controller. So what's the SDN controller? I'm just gonna say the DNA. Right? I was gonna say Cisco DNA, but we ain't gotta write it out. We know this is all Cisco stuff. Right? We have our DNA and we have our southbound and our northbound. Okay? So our DNA, obviously, we're going to access it from the northbound. We're going to access it. They gave an example, REST API, right? REST API is just a application program that uses HTTPS, right? Which is the secure version of the HTTP. And we're going to use that HTTPS to request and access data, right? So we can use this data to say what's going on. So that's just one way. I believe that's more of a script way, but there are apps, right? Simple apps that you can use, which has a GUI that we can get in and access our DNA, right? Our DNA is going to be something of like a web GUI. We'll go into a little bit more of that. However, from our northbound interface, we're going to use maybe this REST API to get through. And again, it's like a HTTPS is what we're going to use to get information. Okay, that's how we're going to use our API. And again, it's through certain apps, depending on the apps that your company is using. Just know that it's going to be something like a simple app that you open, right? We know what apps are: Facebook, Instagram, Zoom is, you can download Zoom app, so many different things, right? So we get into it and we manage our DNA and we say, DNA, this is what we're going to do with this interface, with this device, with that networking, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So then our DNA is going to talk to our data plane, right? Our southbound interface, right? It has our 3 things. Don't forget the 3 things down here, right? And through the southbound API, it will use something, and they gave us an example like OpenFlow. OpenFlow is kind of like a let me cut that off. It's something like a special type of I'm gonna say an application. It uses API, but it's like a certain type of program that you use to like take special actions, right? And in this case, in this actual example, this special action would be to talk to our data plane, whatever's in our SBI, saying this is how you're going to use OSPF, or you're going to use, we're going to use rapid spanning tree, whatever, I don't know, whatever the control plane needs to send down to the data plane to control the data. But OpenFlow is one of the ways you can use. It's other ones like netconf and OpenConf or something like that. But I do know OpenFlow is a pretty wide standard. So I believe that's probably why they gave us that an example. But regardless, that's how our DNA, our control plane, is going to control our data, which is through our southbound interfaces. Okay, that's how it is in a nutshell. Again, this is software. We're talking about automating our network. So how do we automate something, right? We have to make sure that these things can talk with each other because they're different. The DNA is different from these virtual switches and these physical switches. These physical switches is a little different from these virtual switches, right? These apps are all going to be different, right? All up here, all these apps are going to be different. But we're all using software to control it, and we need somewhere. We need some way for these different types of software, security apps, networking apps, DNA, virtual switches, physical switches. How do they communicate with each other? Because this is new. This is, we're used to just going into the data and going into the network device and configuring it. Now it's doing something with software. So how does that work? APIs. Okay, APIs is going to talk between our different softwares so they can work together and accomplish the task at hand. But you must know the different components, and that's why we talk about DNA, MBI, SBI, and our three little bits in SBI. Okay, pretty simple, right? Now, just ending on DNA Center, just so we actually understand DNA Center, right? We know it's the controller, so it's going to sit in the middle. Now, we're looking at it from an architectural standpoint, right? This is how we're going to present it. We have our DNA Center with our southbound, right? Which obviously entails our three things. We have our northbound, and we're going to get in it through GUI and script, and we have our Cisco vendor app. There's an application that we can use, and we can get on it through different ways as well. This is the type of diagram you would present when you're in a meeting with other tech folks, the whole tech department. Maybe you want to meet with them and let them know your plans, or maybe just your department, whatever your department is, whether it is networking or whatever. Well, in this case, it will be networking because this is how we're going to use it. This is what you're going to display in your meeting, even if the CEO is there. This is what you're going to map out. It's kind of what it's going to look like, right? In reality, right, this DNA Center looks like this in reality. When you're actually setting up the southbound and northbound interface with this DNA and telling it to use what type of controls you're going to use, right? This is what it looks like, right? It's a GUI. As you can see, it's application, DNA Center, right here. And there's things, you got the health, right? You can look at your dashboards, any issues going on, right? You want to manage some things, provision. And it's going to tell you exactly what's happening. Wireless, what's happening, wired, what's happening, client onboarding times. It'll give you even a drawing, like a topology drawing, like, that's connected to that, that's open, this is closed, that's open, probably be red, these will be green, so you can see exactly like, okay, what's going on, okay? It has a really good stuff. I think I've used Cisco DNA Center one time in one of my contracts, and I don't think I really used it. I think it was just me just looking around, just being nosy, because I've never, again, I'm new to this field. So I'm like, let me just see what y'all have going on. But, and that's good to, be curious and discover. So yeah, in reality, it's going to be just a GUI. All right. Now we know that it sits in the center. So we know that the main role is to act as the controller, right? That controller of this SDA, controller of this software defined access of this network, right? And another role that it has is you can use DNA Center as a like management platform if you're not, if you don't have SDA totally implemented in your environment, right? But the purpose is for you to use the DNA Center as your management platform because you are wanting to implement SDA, right? You're wanting to implement software in your network. So you would get DNA and you would use it in your traditional network so you can use it as a management, get comfortable with it. Oh, you guys, this is what we're using now. And then later on, roll out your software, right? So if you want to use software in your network, you know, like seriously, you're going to use the DNA. You have to, it's required, right? There's no other ways around it because that is the controller, right? So you use it as a controller in your software. You can use it as a management in your traditional network as well, right? So just because you see a DNA center in one of the companies that you'll go to, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have software implemented, right? They could just be using it as a management platform. Okay. So once again, read chapter 17. You can go back and read a little bit of 16, but definitely take those mini quizzes, the mini little quiz, and see what you know, what you don't know, and just review it. If you are the type that has to read everything word from word, then I mean, by all means, power to you. But I'm not. I like to skim through. So take the quiz, what you don't know, research it, actually read that word from word. But definitely go through and look at the key, I think it's key topics. It's like, it's going to tell you something that's like key terms or key topics. That's letting you know, like, this is for sure on the exam, right? This is for sure what you need to know about this topic. So I would go and skim through, and once I see a key term or a key topic, I have like a little like orange like asterisk or something or a little box to let you know like, hey, pay attention. And I would take notes on that, like, okay. And if there's a word I don't know, or if they're saying something, some type of phrase that I'm just don't understand, I'm either going to Google that word, Google that phrase, or read a little above it because it may give you a little foreshadowing. Okay. Definitely be effective, right, with all of this. Be efficient with your learning and your studying, right? If you have at least 3 to 4 hours, great, you know, that's perfect. But if you have a little less than 3 hours, I would say make sure that you're doing what you need to do, the notes that you need to take. You know, don't go down this rabbit hole because a lot of times it will take you down this rabbit hole to where you're like, I don't know how I got to some other stuff, you know, when I should be learning about DNA Center. I'm down the rabbit hole of, you know, why Cisco fired all its employees, right? Like, let's stay on topic because you'll get really trapped into it, and then you will have too much information in your not in your brain, and you won't be able to decipher it when it's exam day come or when it's time for you to do the tasks that you need to do. Okay, so again, it's not going to be long. This was end of this lesson, end of these slides. What I do want to do is let's hop over to our link, right, that we got last lesson and go through it again. Okay, let's discard that. Let's go here, right? Let's exit that. And you did network basics, right? We did that last lesson. Only took us 1 hour and 20 minutes. And today, I want you guys to do the developer workstation and environment setup. Let's set up our workstation, which is our computer, and we're going to download our developer tools. So now we can start coding using our automation and using programmability, and we have the apps to do so. Okay, so obviously we're going to start here, and it says duration 3 hours. It actually may take you 3 hours if you are brand new to this, because you want to actually know what you're downloading, what is it used for. It's going to take a little time to download depending on your internet speed. You have to set it up a little bit, right? So obviously, what is a development environment and why do you need one? Great way to start, right? Because you want to know what do you mean by development environment? And again, why do I have to set up this environment? If you're a student who's really into software development, again, coding is always like the hot word, right? If you're into that, this is exactly where you want to be, setting up your development environment. So it gives you a little stuff about why you need it, right? We need these tools to help us with our software development, right? With our development period. But obviously it deals with software because we're not using anything hardware, but our computers. So as you can see, they have some icons here that we're going to use. That tells you a little bit about different types of environments, okay? Cloud services, hosted services, whoop-de-whoop. Definitely read through it. Okay, why do I need what do I need in my development environment? And it tells you need an OS, Mac, Windows, Linux, whatever. You need source code systems, right? They can get your code and you can get the code from the cloud. You need your terminals and shells. This is where you actually execute your scripts, right? Where you actually code your languages. What are you coding? What language are you going to speak? Are you going to speak Python, Java, C++, JavaScript? Whoop-de-doo. What are you going to use? Because there's so many different program languages. We're definitely going to use Python. However, if you are one of the students who are really here just for the coding knowledge, then I would say play around with all of them. Maybe I'll do some separate labs with C++ or JavaScript, but maybe I won't, right? Text editors and IDEs, right? This is where we're actually going to write our code so we can execute it in our shell, in our terminal, okay? Code, our development tools, Postman. This looks like Postman, I think. Yes, that's one of our development codes where we can actually test our APIs. As you can see, there's a GET, there's HTTPS in this example right here. So this is what we're using to actually develop APIs and test them. Okay, so what we'll be using maybe next lesson. I think we'll go into APIs next lesson. Or I may just do, we'll see. And then we have containers, whatever, that's just letting you know like what we need to have, and we're gonna move on. What are some good tool choices to start with? It's just gonna tell you what you should do. Again, as far as operating system, all of these are great, but most of the time someone has Windows, right? Source code system, that's where we have our sourcing. Git or GitHub, you may or may not have heard it, but this is the time where we're actually going to start learning about Git and GitHub, right? Let's see, we have our terminals and shells, right? I always use PowerShell because it's just automatically on Windows. I'm always on the Windows computer, but Bash is a good shell. I just started using it not too long ago, so I suggest definitely use shell, but you can use any one. Again, we'll go in more. And then programming languages, like I said, Python is the #1. It's very popular because it's so simple to do, so simple to learn. JavaScript, C++, PHP, those languages are hard. I'm gonna just tell you that now. I started learning some of it and I didn't even get through it. Python, I was able to actually create a couple systems with Python because Python is very easy. And like I said, JavaScript, it's popular. Again, if you're one of these coders, these coder students, then JavaScript is probably one of the languages. It's a little tedious to learn. It's a lot of all these different variations, but you learn JavaScript, you have a job for sure. Okay, text editors, Atom. I use Notepad++, but also use Atom too, depending on what I'm doing. Very cool text editors. Visual Studio Code. I actually just started Visual Studio Code. you can see. It's an IDE, but I think Adam uses it's like an IDE. So we'll see what they want us to do with that. And then our tools, Postman, that's one of the ones we're going to use for our APIs, because we're learning about APIs, right? And specifically REST APIs. So this is good. And then let's see, Chrome, we already know. Well, just going back to Chrome, it has developer tools for Chrome, right? And we can just take a look. Let me open up a brand new tab. I can come here. I can say more tools. I can say developer tools, and it should pop up with the code, right? So if I was to go to tech, I don't know how to spell it. Technically speaking, right? Let's see if it'll pop up with my code. And this is my code on my website, right? This is my HTML code on my website, right? So if, again, developer, if you're trying to create a website from scratch, this would be great for you, because you'll be able to see exactly what's happening, and you can adjust here in real time. Or if you're the type to just be like, what does this website have? How was she able to put this this video right here, or these pictures, or whatever the case may be, then you would come over here and take a look and get some of this code, right? HTML, the language is English. I may do an HTML project. We may do one so we can create like a nice little cool website, something very simple, a little HTML web page, so you guys can at least get a little bit of hands-on with that. It's pretty cool. HTML, it's very tedious. I think it took me like 2 months to build a website when I first started HTML, because I was learning it as I was going. But yeah, very cool. Even when you do animation with HTML, it's pretty cool, right? So we have an overlay here. Yeah, I'm not gonna go in, but it's pretty cool. I enjoy looking at this. But anyway, going back, whatever. And then AnyConnect or OpenConnect is the VPN that we're going to use as we do our DevNet sandboxes. Our sandboxes is basically, I don't know, I think it's a software as a service, or I think it's a platform as a service. But whatever, it's a sandbox that allows you to play around with stuff without actually having it locally on your computer, but you need a VPN to access it, right? So when folks are like, okay, so like for my job, I'm a new techie, right? And let's say they want me to implement a new type of chat. They want me to integrate a Cisco Jabber chat with I don't know, WebEx chat or something, just something. You want me to integrate some type of different software or different services. I could go into a sandbox provided by Cisco, DevNet Sandbox, because we're in DevNet right now, Learning Labs, as you can see at the top. And it'll give me an environment that I could play around in. So before I actually put it in my environment and possibly mess something up, I can mess it up in a play environment, right? Which is called a sandbox. We may go into the sandbox again. I don't know what type of what type of projects we'll actually get into, but it's something good to know that we have these tools available for us. So it's not like you just have to know everything. No, there's tools for you to play around with it. So when it's time for you to implement it, you know how to implement it, right? We're not here as a genius. We just know that these are the tools that we have. Let's use these tools to create something. And again, that's where the big bucks come in at. I don't care that you know about network, networking, computer networking, or network infrastructure, or coding. I don't care about that. How can you help me? How can you fix this issue? That's it, period, right? Newer eyes can see that than older eyes. So someone that's been 20 plus years, they can't see what we need to implement new. They just see that it's been working. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Why fix something if it's not broke? but we want to be innovative. We want to save money. The CEO is like, I'm spending $1 million a month. I mean, not a month, but a year on the tech department. What if you come in as a new person, implement some of these automation, and you actually save the company like $250,000, right? So 250,000 is back in the company's pocket, and they're like, well, shit, I love you, right? Which again will put some more money in your pocket. I mean, it's nothing to dish out an extra 5, 10, maybe even $20 an hour to you. Right. So if you're already making $50 for doing this an hour, and they like, well, here's another $25 an hour. I mean, shoot, that's $75 an hour. Like that's a big jump start. Right. So, but you have to know how to fix issues. You have to know how to be innovative. Right. So this is what this is for, right? This is for to help us get our development tools together so we can come into the door, knocking it down. And this Docker, I've never used Docker. I actually was just trying to download it before we had class, and it's something about some other stuff, whatever. And then boom, whatever, we set up our computer. Now, we're actually going to go in because we talked about, where we at? Okay, so now we talked about why do we need to set up a developer workstation? What is a developer workstation? Why do we need it? We went through it all, okay? Now the next lab is actually setting up the workstation, okay? So what we're gonna do, go in, as you can see down here, it's 10 slides. So we're gonna go in, there's nothing right here to prepare you for Windows, but let's start downloading stuff. We're gonna download Git, right? I think I have this already. Git, let's see, yeah, Git bash, right? And you're gonna download it, right? Use all the defaults. It tells you how to download, so it shouldn't be an issue of you downloading it. Just make sure that you get on the desktop, you get a desktop icon, and you just do all the defaults. I mean, you could change it to Notepad++, but just do all the defaults. Once it's downloaded, they want you to verify. So everything that you download, they're going to ask you to verify it, and they tell you how to verify it, right? So here, as you can see, this is my Git bash. So it's a terminal, and we're going to say they want us to look at the version. So I'll do Git and then space --version, enter. And then it tells me the Git version, 2.31.1.windows.1, right? Okay, cool. And then they may tell me to do some of this. Let me see. Let me copy it. Now, one thing I do want to say is if you're, again, one of the coder students, never, ever copy and paste. Always write it out because that's what's going to help you learn. Right now, I'm not gonna say I'm pressed for time, but I don't want to sit here forever. So let's just paste it if I can. Okay, yeah, paste it. Right, enter. It says it already exists. Right, I don't know. Oh, maybe because I was already doing it. Yeah, I was already doing it in the earlier today. Right, but it's gonna come out with some stuff like this. Let's see what else. Terminal shells, right? Bash, Git bash is what we downloaded. Let me see if I can change the directory. Is that what I want to do? CD is change directory. Hello network, right? Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why I don't have this in my thing. Oh, maybe because I'm already in it and I can do this. Hello network. I should have closed it before I hopped on here. Oh, maybe I have to finish downloading it. Yeah, I wasn't finished downloading everything. But as you can see, this is what they're telling you to put in. CD is change directory, and it's telling you what directory to put in. Okay, which is it says clone from the next step. Okay, let's just keep going. Installing Python, right? Python, download Python. It tells you exact steps, what to do, how to download it. Even gives you a nice little image, right? Let's see, Python on here, py, we'll do what? The version, right? I'm pretty sure. Py minus 3 minus v, right? Okay, Python version 3.9.4, as you can see right here. Okay, so Python is on, it's downloaded. I downloaded it earlier. And then I actually do some other stuff with Python, whatever, who cares? JavaScript, no JavaScript. I believe I downloaded that already. Open Git once again, the Git bash, right? And let's do what they say, node minus v, the version. Yes, so JavaScript is on here, version 14.6.1. I downloaded earlier, as you can see, it popped up as the version. And let's see what else they want. Text editors, right? They love Atom and Visual Studio Code. I think I have Atom. Yes, I have Atom, right? Let's open. Maybe it's trying to open. I don't know. Let's do let's do Notepad. Notepad++. Let's see. Is it gonna open? I don't know why my stuff is not opening. Okay. Oh, so yeah, I was putting up my dev environment. I was making all the things. Yeah, I actually just downloaded this. And what's cool is I need a mouse. Let me get that. I can't write on the screen. What's cool is, I mean, you can do anything that you want when this, like, you know, a lot of people like to change their view. So you have different things that you can do with this, how you can change it. Oh, Adam's finally popping up. It just took a little minute. Clearly I'm impatient. Let me exit out. Okay, maybe I should leave it alone. Settings, I always like to go into the settings and change to dark mode or something that I actually like. Sometimes the white just doesn't do it for me. Where are we at? Hold on. Let me see. Settings, style. I thought it was in preferences. But I like to change my theme, right? Because again, the white is just lame. So maybe, okay, maybe a little chocolate. Okay, so I'll probably save and close. And then as you can see, I have a dark version. I always like dark mode. I put my Facebook in dark mode, my Instagram in dark mode, my phone, you know, it's dark mode. I don't know, it just works. I'm always on the screen, so it just helps when it's dark mode. It doesn't make my eyes strain. But Notepad++, great, great to use. Oh, I was on one. Oh, so Atom. Oh my goodness. I was just clicking. Yeah, my computer, I may need to restart. I think it's due for an update. But anyway, boom, right? We have our Atom. It's the same thing. I can do exit. I can go file, new window, or maybe not new window. Open a project. We don't have any projects. We didn't do any. Yeah, so I don't need to go into that. But let me see. We can do file. Let's do a new file. So I don't have a project. And it's the same as Notepad++, right? I can do, you know, I can probably do print and probably something simple code, right? Simple code. And I can just keep doing it. Whatever I want to create, I create it here. You know, 2, 3, 4, all the way goes down, and I save it, and I can open it up as an actual code, right? Visual Studio Code, I think I downloaded that. Visual Studio Code. Again, they tell you how to download it, where to download it, what to choose, all that good stuff. As you can see here, we have our different variations. New file, right? IDE, right? Same thing, right? It just has more powerful tools than Notepad++ and a little bit more than Atom. Excuse me, but they're kind of the same. Visual Studio Code and Atom's kind of the same. So most of the times you don't need both, but why not? Because we're learning and we want to, play around and see which one best works for us. Okay. Let's go in. What's the next thing? Okay. Now our development tools, Postman. Maybe I downloaded this. Postman, yep, sure did. And Postman, I need to probably update it for real because I don't know why it's going slow. My other computer goes much quicker, even with all these apps downloaded. But yeah, again, Postman is where we're going to use our REST APIs. Very, very fun. I actually enjoy dealing with development tools just because there's a lot of hands-on and I'm new to the software development world. I did a little bit of HTML, I did a little bit of Python, and I mean, that's really about it. So as I start to delve into that to add on to my networking skills, it's very fun. Let's see, we have our dad jokes. Yes, our dad jokes are really cool. Let me see. I think they're gonna give me something to verify. Okay, yes. So we're gonna use our JSON, which we'll talk about, right? JSON is another type of language. And let's see, let's add a key, right? Except that's the key we're gonna use. We're gonna put our JSON value and let's send it. And it's supposed to give us a dad joke, right? Which is something so corny. Okay, so here's the dad joke. Did you hear the one about the giant pickle? He was kind of a big deal. Like, stupid. But it's cool because we're using one software to talk to another software. And this is all, what we're doing is we're using APIs to give us data. And this data is a joke, a dad joke, right? Stupid. But when I first learned, when I first started with Postman and learning about APIs, I'm a big like Harry Potter fan and X-Men fan. So I would look up X-Men and Harry Potter APIs, and I would just go through the whole list of like all the characters and their powers and just get data using an API. Very cool, very cool. We'll talk more about Postman, so you guys will definitely get to play around with it, but just download it for now. And remember when we talked about, actually we haven't talked about that yet, but we'll talk about get, post, put, patch, delete, all these cool API, RESTful API methods here. And get, obviously we want to get this HTTPS, which is I can has dad jokes, whatever, .com. And we basically just got a joke. Let me see, let's give me a different joke. Yes. What type of music do balloons hate? Pop music. Stupid. Right. And that's another thing. Like in the tech department, I've learned that dry humor is amongst all of us. So we are definitely going to we're going to be very sarcastic with each other. We're going to tell these dad jokes, right? These lame jokes. And yeah, we're going to have very much dry humor. So it's almost like The Office, if you guys watch The Office, but definitely not as crazy as how they are. But yeah, let's go. You probably don't need too much Google Chrome. We already know, we don't need too much of this. Oh, what I did want to say is Open Connect, which is a VPN. I don't know. I tried to download it. It didn't work. So I would suggest you guys download AnyConnect, which is Cisco's VPN service. I believe it is open. Oh, it's not open source because it's for Cisco, but I believe it is free. So download that. Or if you find a way to download Open Connect, let everyone know in the chat. You know, whether it's in the chat below the video on a replay or in Slack, let us know because I couldn't find it. But definitely want to connect to a VPN. And then Docker. I don't think you have to download Docker. I don't think we're actually going to use it, but if you want to play around, again, if you're one of those people who are here for coding, definitely download Docker. Like, why not, right? And again, it walks you through the steps. This is just telling you to download Python 2 instead of Python 3. You can skip that. I mean, we're not going to play around with old versions, right? And they have you deactivated anyway. Like, that's stupid. So let's just keep going. And then, boom, you're done, right? So, in a sense, you should have your developer codes, right? You should have your VSC, your Postman, your Atom, right? If you want to do Docker, you can. Your Notepad, right? You have your Bash, right? Your terminal. Again, you can always use just PowerShell. PowerShell is pretty cool, you know. Oh, it's gonna take me a little time to upload this or to load. Okay, there we go. So yeah, Python. I don't have any codes on this computer. I have a bunch of codes that I can probably show you guys. Actually, that's what we'll do. So today, use this time to go over chapter 16, 17, and get your environment together. Download all your development, your tools, your developer tools. Then tomorrow, we'll kind of put some of those tools in play. What we'll probably do is just deal with Python. Let me see. Okay, we'll probably just deal with Python. We'll probably do like some cool little script. We'll go through the shell, learn about change directory. You know, we're changing the directory to desktop. We're now on the desktop. We'll talk about more about the shell. The shell is our terminal. It is our terminal. But for us as the human users, we have this nice little interface, which is this right here. Let me exit that out, which is this right here, right? This is a GUI because the computer is giving us this type of visual, you know, because that's for us to learn. That's how we are going to learn. However, you can navigate your computer through the terminals. You can go through many, many different things, change desktop. I mean, I don't know any other app to go into. I don't really have too much on this computer, but you can, I think it's make directory, and maybe I'll say make directory, I'll say CCNA, right? And then look at that. You see right here, CCNA folder pop up, right? And then I can do change directory CCNA because I want to go into it. And then I can probably say make directory, what are we talking about? Automation, right? And then automation pops up and you see it actually popped up in the CCNA folder, right? So cool. When I first learned how to do this, I was creating folders all over my computer, right? But this is the original way to do it, right? You know, CCNA, I'm in CCNA. I can make directory. Actually, I can change directory to automation, right? And then I can make MK, make directory, automation. What are we learning about? Oh, terminal. Or I could just probably say dev. I probably should do like dev ops, right? And then I made this directory. So I can also do an automation. I can do like ls. I think that's list. And it lists what's in here. I think it's period CD. That goes back to what we were originally with, maybe. I don't know. It's been a minute since I've actually, you know, went through all of this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to go back. I have to look at my notes. But as you can see in automation, we have DevOps, right? We created these folders. It's so cool. Let me see. Maybe it's this. Oh, no, it's not. I don't know. I forgot. Oh, it's going to bother me that I don't know. Oh, I think it's this. It's like /CD. Okay, no, that's not. Can I do question mark? Okay, no. I don't know how to look into this. Or maybe I can do control. Okay, no. I gotta go into my notes and see how I get out of the folder I was in and go all the way back to the original. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. We'll probably do that tomorrow. We'll probably go and learn about I'll teach you guys about the different little acronyms like LS, that means list. So we're gonna list out all the things that we have. Let me exit out of this because I forgot how to do it. Let me let's see if I go here. If I go desktop, can I do list? Okay, and it lists everything, yes, because this is a terminal too. It's just bash. But you see, if I do ls, it lists all the apps that I have on this computer, right? I can do change directory to desktop. And now we're in desktop and I can do list, ls, and it's going to list what's on my desktop that I can open. As you can see, we have these things, right? CBT nuggets, got a little CBT nuggets going on. Don't worry about that. But very, 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 very cool. We'll probably do that tomorrow, which again, I'll teach you about make directory. What is that? What does that entail? Change directory. We'll learn about the shell, the terminal. We'll probably maybe do a little bit with Python, right? Let me take a look. Is Python even the next thing on the list? 5 labs. Python, yeah, Python fundamentals. So tomorrow we may just focus on